Elena retreated to her quarters that night, the Elder's warning echoing in her mind. Through her viewport, the endless tapestry of stars reminded her of humanity's precarious position. Earth and its colonies, mere specks of light among countless others, yet somehow threatening enough to warrant the Verax Empire's hostility. The next morning, she accessed the diplomatic archives, studying previous encounters between emerging species and established powers. A pattern emerged. The Verax had initiated conflicts with 4 other species in the last century alone. Each time, the upstarts had either been subjugated or pushed back to their home systems, their expansion halted permanently. Computer, display first contact war casualty statistics, Elena commanded. The holographic display materialized, showing the devastating toll. 17 million human lives lost when the Verax fleet destroyed the Armstrong colony. Yet the data also revealed something unexpected. The Verax had suffered losses far beyond what they had publicly acknowledged. A soft chime interrupted her research. Her assistant, an artificial intelligence interface with a gentle voice, announced, "Ambassador, Council Representative, Kazalor requests a meeting." The reptilian diplomat waited in her office antechamber, his bronze scales gleaming under the artificial light. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, Kazalor's species had evolved from apex predators, yet his demeanor conveyed thoughtfulness rather than aggression. "Ambassador Reyes," he began, mandibles clicking softly, "I come unofficially. My government has no knowledge of this meeting." Elena gestured to a chair designed to accommodate his physiology. "I appreciate discretion, Representative. What brings you here?" Kazalor's vertical pupils contracted. "I served as observer during your species' peace negotiations with the Verax. What I witnessed there..." He paused, searching for words. "Your negotiators achieved concessions that no other species has managed. This has not been forgotten or forgiven by certain factions." "You're talking about Drax Vorn," Elena said. "The Supreme Commander views your people as an aberration. Your military tactics during the war defied their predictive models. Humans achieved victories with inferior technology through what my people would call..." He searched for the translation, "adaptive unpredictability." Elena leaned forward. "Are you suggesting the truce is at risk?" Kazalor's scales darkened, a sign of grave concern in his species. "I am suggesting, Ambassador, that the Verax never intended the truce to be permanent. Merely a pause while they reassess and adapt." As he departed, Elena stood at her viewport again, watching a Verax diplomatic vessel dock at the station. Intelligence reports indicated it carried additional cultural attaches, likely military officers in disguise. The pieces were falling into place, confirming her suspicions and the Elder's warning. Earth needed to know. The truce they celebrated so recently was already crumbling beneath the weight of Verax pride. Elena moved through the shadowed corridors of Proxima Station's lower levels, her diplomatic credentials granting her access to areas most ambassadors never ventured. The maintenance section hummed with the machinery that kept the massive station habitable. She paused at an unmarked door, pressed her palm against the scanner, and entered. Inside, a small room had been converted into an impromptu command center. Holographic displays showed real-time feeds from Earth's defense network. Admiral Chen's grim face appeared on the central screen. "The attack wasn't random," Elena said without preamble. "I've traced unusual Verax fleet movements over the past 6 weeks. They've been probing our defenses, looking for weaknesses." Chen nodded, his weathered face lined with exhaustion. "Ganymede was just the beginning. We're detecting energy signatures consistent with their supercarriers gathering at 3 rally points. This is a coordinated offensive." The Council, deadlocked. The Verax representatives are claiming the attack was justified under obscure treaty provisions. They've convinced enough neutral parties to prevent any meaningful action. Elena studied the tactical display. Earth's defenses were formidable, but the colonies were vulnerable. Millions of lives hung in the balance. "I need a ship," she said finally. "Something fast and unregistered. And I need to disappear from official channels." Chen's eyebrows rose. "You're abandoning your post." "I'm changing the battlefield," Alina corrected. "Diplomacy can only work when both sides want peace. The Varaks understand only strength and consequences." After finalizing arrangements, Alina returned to her quarters to collect essential items. As she packed, a message chimed on her secure terminal. The sender, Kazalor. Ambassador Reyes, sensors detected unusual activity near the Sorax system. Varak's military transports disguised as cargo vessels. My government's inquiry was dismissed as a navigation exercise. There is more happening than even I suspected. Alina downloaded the data to a secure chip and erased all traces of the message. The Sorax system, home to a mineral-rich planet whose inhabitants had long chafed under Varak's control. A potential leverage point. At the station's secondary docking bay, a nondescript vessel awaited. The Shadow Accord, officially decommissioned from Earth's intelligence service, but secretly maintained for covert operations. Its captain, Torvald, saluted as she approached. "Course, Ambassador." "We're not using that title anymore," Alina replied, securing the hatch behind her, "and set course for the edge of Varak space. We have allies to find and an empire to unravel." As the ship silently detached from the station, Alina took one last look at the gleaming diplomatic hub. Those who thought her retreat was defeat would soon learn otherwise. The Varaks had shattered the truce, expecting humanity to respond with either traditional warfare or desperate diplomacy. They would receive neither. The infiltration of the Viridian 6 communication hub required precision timing and nerves of steel. Alina monitored the operation from the Shadow Accord's tactical room, watching through Torvald's ocular feed as he navigated the facility's labyrinthine corridors. "Security patrol approaching," she warned, tracking heat signatures on her display. 3 guards, heavy weapons." "Copy that." Torvald's voice came through, barely above a whisper. A moment later, his feed showed him pressing himself into a maintenance alcove as 3 Varak soldiers marched past, their scaled hides gleaming under the harsh lighting. Meanwhile, in the station's central server room, Mira Sek's crystalline body pulsed with subtle light as her silicon-based anatomy interfaced directly with the Varak's communication systems. Through their encrypted channel, Alina heard the hacker's melodious voice. "Their security is impressive but predictable. Military protocols, 17 layers of encryption. Ah, there's the pattern." The schematic on Alina's display flashed green as Mirasek gained access. "How long before they detect the intrusion?" Alina asked. "They already know something's wrong." Sen interjected from his station monitoring Varak's communication channels. "They're running standard diagnostic sweeps." The former Varak's officer's mandibles clicked nervously. "If they follow protocol, they'll dispatch a technical team in approximately 6 minutes. Alina nodded to Kazalor, who had been observing silently. "Time to implement your distraction." The reptilian diplomat activated a small device taken from his homeworld. Within seconds, atmospheric sensors throughout the communication hub registered a potential contaminant. Alarm protocols initiated, drawing security personnel toward the environmental control center, away from the server room and Torvald's position. "Quantum entanglement receivers successfully embedded," Mirasek announced, establishing secure linkage to Shadow Accord systems now. Alina watched as Varak's military data began flowing into their secure database. Troop movements, supply routes, security codes, a treasure trove of intelligence that would allow them to predict and counter the Empire's next moves. "Extraction route clear," Alina confirmed, sending the path coordinates to both operatives. "Rendezvous at Point Epsilon in 12 minutes. As the team executed their withdrawal, Alina focused on a particular data cluster. Battle plans for the next phase of the Varak's offensive against human colonies. 3 battle groups converging on the Tau City outpost, scheduled to attack within 15 days. When Torvald and Mirasek returned to the ship, the crew gathered around the tactical table. Alina displayed the intelligence they'd acquired. The Verax believe their communication network is impenetrable, she said, a cold smile playing at her lips. That arrogance is our greatest advantage. Sen studied the battle plans, mandibles twitching. These formations are textbook Verax military doctrine. Overwhelming force applied to a single point. Then we'll be ready for them, Elena replied, already composing an encrypted warning to Earth Command. But first, we have rebellions to ignite. The Soraxian underground tunnels extended far deeper than Verax intelligence suspected. Elena and her team followed Vorta through passages carved with ancient symbols, the walls occasionally pulsing with bioluminescent organisms that responded to their movement. Our ancestors built these when the first Verax ships appeared in our skies, Vort explained, compound eyes reflecting the soft blue glow. They knew instinctively what was coming. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern where hundreds of Soraxians gathered. Their six-limbed forms moved with fluid grace despite the heavy mining exoskeletons many still wore, equipment the Verax required for their labor, but which now served a different purpose. These are the representatives from every mining sector, Vorta said. They've risked execution to hear your proposal. Elena stepped forward, conscious of the skeptical gazes fixed upon her. The Verax believe their empire is invincible because they keep each subjugated world isolated. They convince you that you're alone in your suffering. She activated a holographic display showing coordinated uprisings on 2 other worlds, rebellions Elena's team had quietly fomented over the past weeks. But you're not alone. And they're not invincible. A murmur spread through the gathering. An elder Soraxian stepped forward, his exoskeleton modified with what appeared to be repurposed Verax technology. Fine words, human. But the Verax control our orbital defense grid. The moment we rise up, they'll bombard our cities from space. Elena nodded to Torvald, who opened a secure container. Inside lay crystalline control rods. Verax security keys stolen during their previous operations. Not anymore, Elena replied. We've reprogrammed the command protocols. When you begin your uprising, the defense grid will target their ships, not your people. Vorta's compound eyes widened. Is this possible? Sen stepped forward, his Verax physiology causing a ripple of tension. I supervised the installation of similar systems on 12 worlds. The override codes are genuine. The elder studied Sen with obvious distrust. Why would one of them help us? Because not all Verax support the Supreme Commander's vision. Sen replied, mandibles clicking nervously. Some of us see the Empire for what it has become. Planning continued through the night. Elena provided tactical guidance while Mirasek integrated Soraxian technology with the stolen Verax systems. By morning, they had established a secure communication network linking resistance cells across the planet. As Elena's team prepared to depart, Vorta presented her with a small crystalline object, a sacred Soraxian memory stone. We record our history in these, Vorta explained. When we win our freedom, your name will be added. Elena accepted the gift solemnly. 3 days. That's when you'll receive the signal to begin. Remember, target their communication centers first. Aboard the Shadow Accord, Elena studied the tactical display showing Verax fleet deployments. Already, ships were being diverted from the planned human offensive to deal with civil unrest on 2 other worlds. Soon, they would face a third front on Sorax II. Where to next? Kazlor asked. Elena's eyes never left the display, the heart of their propaganda machine. It's time to show the galaxy the truth. The surface of Helkarak's moon glittered like polished obsidian, its frozen methane lakes reflecting starlight in eerie patterns. The Shadow Accord remained hidden in a crater on the dark side, while Elena and her team traversed the final distance to the information repository in environmental suits modified to mask their thermal signatures. Security appears minimal, Torvald observed as they approached the facility embedded in the moon's crust. They rely on secrecy rather than guards. Arrogance, Sen replied, his breath fogging his helmet. The Verax believe no one would dare breach their most sacred archives. The main access point required genetic authentication. Elena nodded to Xen, who reluctantly pressed his scaled palm against the scanner. His security credentials, presumably revoked after his defection, had been temporarily reactivated through code manipulations in the communication network they'd compromised. The massive doors hissed open, revealing a cavernous chamber filled with quantum storage arrays pulsing with faint light. The team moved quickly, each member taking their assigned position, while Mirasek interfaced with the central system. "I'm encountering resistance," the silicon-based hacker reported, her crystalline form flickering with strain. "Adaptive security protocols, unlike anything at the communication hub." Elena checked the chronometer on her suit. "How long?" "Unknown. The system is aware." Torvald positioned defensive charges at key points throughout the facility. "If this goes sideways, we can still destroy the repository." "That's Plan B," Elena reminded him. "We need this information intact to expose the truth." Minutes stretched into an hour as Mirasek battled the security system, her silicon structure glowing brighter with exertion. Finally, her form stabilized, and she spoke with renewed clarity. "I've created a secure pathway. We have access." Elena moved to the primary interface terminal, where data began flowing across multiple screens. Centuries of Verax history unfolded before her, not the sanitized version taught to their citizens, but the unvarnished truth of systematic conquest. There, Sen pointed to a file cluster labeled in the Verax High language. Operation First Light, the codename for the human first contact mission. The files revealed meticulously planned sabotage. Verax operatives had infiltrated human navigation systems, altering coordinates to ensure the diplomatic vessels would appear in a restricted military zone. What followed was recorded as predictable defensive response: the destruction of 3 ships and 1,200 human diplomats and scientists. "They never intended peace," Elena whispered, the enormity of the deception hitting her. "They manufactured war from the beginning." Deeper in the archives, they discovered more damning evidence: biological weapons deployed against civilian populations, cultural erasure programs, and mass relocations of problematic species. The Verax Empire's expansion had been built on calculated atrocities concealed behind propaganda and diplomatic maneuvering. "Broadcast status?" Elena asked, turning to Kazalor, who monitored their communication link to the Shadow Accord. "Ready on your command. The transmission package will override all galactic communication networks simultaneously. No selective blocking will be possible." Elena studied the screens one last time. "Operation Daybreak commences now." Across the galaxy, billions of beings of all species paused as their communication devices, entertainment systems, and public displays suddenly switched to a single broadcast: the unvarnished truth about the empire that had presented itself as the galaxy's rightful ruling power. The battle for Ta City unfolded with a precision that would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. From the command deck of the retrofitted human vessel Defiance, Elena coordinated the multi-species fleet with calm efficiency, her months of preparation about to face their ultimate test. "Verax command vessel has taken the bait," reported Torvald, tracking enemy movements on the tactical display. "They're committing their full bombardment capability against the holographic outpost." Elena nodded. "Initiate phase shift on my mark." 3, 2, 1, mark. Throughout the human fleet, experimental drives engage, briefly shifting the vessels partially out of conventional spacetime. To Verax sensors, the ships seemed to flicker and vanish, becoming impossible to target. The technology, reverse-engineered from artifacts discovered in the ruins of an ancient civilization, had been humanity's most closely guarded secret. Until now. "All ships, execute attack pattern Chimera," Elena ordered, her voice carrying to captains from 7 different species, former Verax subjects who had seized control of their own defense vessels during the coordinated rebellions. The Verax formation, designed to counter conventional military doctrine, fell into disarray as attacks came from vectors their tactical computers hadn't predicted. Rebellion ships targeted their propulsion systems, while human vessels focused on weapons arrays, systematically disabling rather than destroying when possible. On the main view screen, Draxforn's massive command vessel loomed, a kilometer-long leviathan bristling with weapon emplacements. "Boarding team status," Elena asked, securing her tactical gear. "Ready in Launch Bay 3, Kazlor reported. "Are you certain about leading this yourself?" "The risk is necessary," Elena finished, checking her neural disruptor. "Draxvorn needs to see a human face when he falls." The boarding shuttle launched during a concentrated attack that overwhelmed the command vessel's point defense systems. Using access codes extracted from the information repository, they bypassed security protocols and docked at an emergency maintenance airlock. Torvald took point as they entered, neutralizing 2 guard patrols with non-lethal tactics. The ship's internal communications were in chaos, with conflicting orders and status reports creating confusion throughout the massive vessel. "The command center is 2 levels up," Sen provided, guiding them through service corridors he knew from his military service. "Draxvorn will be there with his elite guards." They encountered surprisingly little resistance. Most of the crew was occupied with the battle raging outside. Those they did encounter often surrendered immediately, the recent revelations about their empire's true history having shattered their resolve. The command center doors were sealed and reinforced. Hardened alloy, Torvald assessed, could take time to breach. "No need," Elena replied, stepping forward with a small device retrieved from the information repository. "This is an override used exclusively by the Imperial family. According to the archives, Draxforn's authority is actually subordinate to the ceremonial emperor, a fact he's concealed for decades." She placed the device against the security panel. Ancient authorization codes transmitted, and the massive doors slid open, revealing the command center beyond. And Supreme Commander Draxforn, standing alone amid abandoned stations, an ancestral blade gleaming in his clawed hand. "I knew you would come yourself, human," he said, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement or rage. "Let us finish what began at first contact." The great chamber of Proxima Station had never been so crowded. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the tiered seating, with overflow crowds watching on massive displays throughout the station. Elena sat with the prosecution team, her formal diplomatic attire a stark contrast to the tactical gear she had worn for months. Supreme Commander Draxvorn stood in the center of the chamber, the security field around him glimmering with subtle energy. Despite his restrained position, his posture remained imperious, scaled head held high as the evidence against him mounted. "The defense calls for dismissal on grounds of sovereignty," argued his advocate, a Verax legal specialist from their central governance. "The internal affairs of the Empire are not subject to council jurisdiction." Elder Nisthara, now presiding over the unprecedented tribunal, leaned forward, crystalline features catching the light. That argument might have merit, had the commander's actions been confined to Verax space. The evidence clearly demonstrates violations of 37 distinct galactic accords. Elena approached the evidence podium when called. The chamber fell silent as she activated a holographic display showing the orbital bombardment of human colony New Seattle. "This attack occurred 3 months after the signing of the truce," she stated, her voice steady. 800,000 civilians died. The Verax official explanation cited defensive measures against military buildup. "Our evidence proves this was fabricated." She played Draxvorn's own recorded orders. "The humans must understand that treaties are merely temporary conveniences. Their extinction is inevitable." Throughout the proceedings, Draxvorn remained silent, speaking only when directly questioned. His responses revealed a worldview so entrenched in Verax supremacy that even with irrefutable evidence of atrocities, he expressed no remorse. "Lesser species must be managed or eliminated," he stated during cross-examination. "This has been the natural order since the first starfaring civilizations. The Verax Empire brings stability through strength." On the final day of proceedings, as the council prepared to render judgment, reports arrived of dramatic developments on the Verax homeworld. Alina received the intelligence briefing directly from Kazlor, who had maintained contact with reformist factions. "They're calling it the Revelation Revolution," he explained, mandibles clicking with excitement. The broadcast of the repository archives sparked massive demonstrations. The ceremonial emperor, long thought a figurehead, has asserted constitutional authority. Military hardliners loyal to Draxvorn attempted a coup, but were overwhelmed by popular support for the reformists. When the council reconvened, a new Verax delegation entered the chamber. Their leader, Science Minister Thexferin, approached the podium with formal deliberation. The new provisional government of the Verax Federated Systems acknowledges the crimes of the previous regime, she announced, her scales bearing the distinctive blue markings of the moderate academic caste. "We accept full responsibility and request the Council's guidance in establishing a more just society." Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. The mighty Verax Empire had fallen, not through military defeat, but through internal transformation sparked by truth. As the proceedings continued, Alina caught Draxvorn watching her, his reptilian eyes unreadable. She had anticipated many possible outcomes, but the complete reformation of an empire from within had exceeded even her strategic calculations. The observation deck of Ganymede Station offered an unparalleled view of Jupiter's swirling atmosphere. Alina watched gas clouds form intricate patterns across the gas giant's surface, finding a strange peace in their constant motion. 1 year since the Verax conflict ended, and still she found herself analyzing patterns, looking for threats hidden in plain sight. "Old habits," she murmured to herself, turning as the observation deck doors hissed open. Admiral Chen approached, his uniform now bearing the insignia of Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Defense Council. The memorial service was well attended, he said. Representatives from 27 species paid their respects. Alina nodded, glancing back at the memorial lights glittering against Jupiter's backdrop. "Have you received any updates from the rim monitoring stations?" "That's actually why I came to find you," Chen replied, activating a small holographic projector. "The energy signatures have intensified. Long-range probes confirm it. The Procyon hegemony is mobilizing on a scale we haven't seen in recorded history." The projection showed massive structures assembling at the galaxy's edge, constructs that dwarfed even the largest Verax battleships. Analysis suggested they were generational vessels, designed for long-term conquest campaigns. "The Council is forming a special task force," Chen continued. "They're requesting you specifically to lead diplomatic initiatives." Alina raised an eyebrow. "Diplomatic? From the size of those vessels, I doubt they're coming to talk." "Perhaps not initially," Chen acknowledged. "But your approach with the Verax proved that military victory alone isn't enough. Lasting peace requires transformation." Before Alina could respond, Kazlor arrived with Mirasek and Sen and Tao, her former team, now holding positions of responsibility in the new galactic order. Kazlor commanded the peacekeeping force, Mirasek headed the unified information exchange, and Sen served as liaison between former Verax worlds and the Council. "Reunion complete," Torvald announced, joining them last, his Black Ops days behind him. He now trained mixed-species security teams in advanced tactical procedures. "Just like old times," Alina observed, a rare smile softening her features. Kazlor's scales shifted to a warm amber, a sign of optimism in his species. "Not quite like old times. The Shadow Accord has been refitted with diplomatic facilities alongside its tactical systems. The Council believes your approach to the hegemony should balance both capabilities." The group moved to a conference area where star charts displayed the latest intelligence on the approaching hegemony. Their discussion flowed with the easy familiarity of people who had faced impossible odds together and emerged victorious. As they developed preliminary strategies, Alina found herself reflecting on humanity's journey. In just a few years, humans had gone from isolated newcomers to integral members of the galactic community. The Varax had shattered the truce, expecting to demonstrate humanity's weakness. Instead, they had revealed its greatest strength, the ability to transform enemies into allies and reshape the very structures of power. Ambassador Reyes. Mirasek's melodious voice interrupted her thoughts. Your insight on first contact protocols would be valuable. Elena rejoined the discussion, her diplomatic training and strategic experience merging seamlessly. Whatever emerged from beyond the rim would face not just humanity, but a united galaxy forged in the aftermath of conflict, a galaxy that had learned the value of justice over vengeance. And if diplomacy failed, she glanced at her team, her friends, and knew they would be ready. The lessons of the past would light their way forward, whatever darkness awaited at the edge of known space.